Welcome to Basic Brewing Radio for Thursday, May 22nd, 2025. I'm James Spencer. Here at Basic Brewing Radio, we're all about home brewing. This week, Greig McGill from Brewaucracy in Hamilton, New Zealand, and Adam Ross from Twin Span Brewing in Bettendorf, Iowa, join me to share their thoughts around the Craft Brewers Conference in Indianapolis. And we have yet another addition to the list of 1 degree of Adam. If you want to support us financially, check out patreon.com/basicbrewing, and many thanks to everybody who was helping out in that way. If you go to patreon.com/basicbrewing, you can see a long list of stuff that you can access if you sign up as a supporter. Many thanks to the new Patreon subscribers who are signing up every week. Your help is very much appreciated. I talked to Steve recently, and very soon I think we'll have up to 6 beers to talk about on the video show. So I don't know if it's possible or wise to shoot half a dozen episodes in one day. I don't think we've ever done that. But that does mean that we have video content coming soon. Whether we do it all at once or not, I think we might. We might do that. What the heck? Just for me, for my part, I have my part of the Detlef Hellas experiment, or the Detlef Hellas experiment, that we'll probably talk about next week. I also have my Maple Canada Starter Lager beer and my big old UK Imperial Pale Lager that I brewed with more than half a pound of hops and put that on the dregs of the starter beer. That beer turned out to be either more than 11% ABV or more than 12% ABV, depending on which calculator you use. That's going to be a fun one. And I brewed another round of hop samplers. Remember those? When I went over to Tulsa, I visited Dave at Small Batch Boutique and got ingredients for the samplers. Should I tell you which hops I'm going to use in this batch? I debated on whether to do that or not, but what the heck? I reserved half an ounce of Harlequin from that big IPL, half an ounce of Nugget, and 9 grams of Cryopop. That should be a lot of fun tasting those. I also got 3 more hops, and I can't remember what those are. But I had fun brewing those hop samplers, but they went really quick. I forget how quick they are to come together. I think it's been a couple of years since we've done the last hop sampler. I'm in a lager brewing path nowadays because our friends and sponsors at Imperial Yeast have released a series of 3 lager strains from 3 different continents. First, it was L51 Never, the Canadian strain, which I used to brew my Salute to Our Neighbors to the North, with Canada malting, pale malt, and a bit of maple syrup. I used the dregs from that beer to brew my Mash Your Luck Challenge beer with Maris Otter and a pound of UK Harlequin hops, or almost, because I took that half an ounce out, so it's almost a pound. That's the one beer that came out more than 11%. I fermented that one in the basement at 60 degrees Fahrenheit, or I think it's like 15.5 C, and it was rocking and rolling on that massive amount of yeast. It started out at 1097 and finished at 1011. So, Never did a really good job on that beer. By the way, speaking of the basement, a couple nights ago, we were in the basement because a little tornado passed within a couple miles of us. We were watching the radar, and it's like, hey, that's our house. And so we got in the basement. Luckily, it didn't touch down around us, so no damage and nobody was hurt, but very scary stuff. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. Well, it is somewhere. It is in the basement. Anyway, Detlef and I brewed our Hellas beers with L29 Looker from Imperial. That's the Southern Czech strain. I didn't use a starter for that one or the Canadian one, and everything went very well. Looker fermented very clean, and I found it to be extremely flocculent. Now, I still have a couple packs of Imperial L55 Kampai, the Japanese strain, and I have to figure out a recipe for that one. So I'm entertaining suggestions if you want to tell me what you would brew with Kampai or what you have brewed with Kampai. At any rate, I used to be intimidated by lager brewing, but when you have good yeast and the right amount of it, it makes it so much easier. And with 200 billion cells in each easy-to-open package, my stir plate is usually dusty because I I haven't been making starters for moderate gravity 5-gallon batches. Ask your local homebrew store about L29 Looker, L55 Kanpai, and L51 Never from Imperial Yeast, and check out all the dependable deliciousness at imperialyeast.com. It's imperialyeast.com. Okay, I've never been to the Craft Brewers Conference. HomebrewCon was more up my alley, obviously. So after I engineered a friendly meetup between Greig and Adam at CBC, I thought it would be a good idea to get their take on the event and how it went this year. Greig McGill, welcome back to Basic Brewing Radio.
It's awesome to be back.
You're down there in Hamilton, New Zealand at Brewaucracy, your brewery, and we're looking behind you. You're early in the it's what is it? Wednesday afternoon here, so that means it's next Friday in the morning where you are, right?
But it's 2047 here. The world has changed quite a lot. No spoilers though, all right?
And Adam Ross is joining us from Twin Span Brewing in Bettendorf, Iowa. Welcome back, Adam.
Always a pleasure, James.
And also joining us is the mower next door. I don't know if you can hear that, but we have a mower going on next door. So if people hear rumbling, that's what it is. But it just adds to the natural ambiance of the whole thing. You know, we're real. We're being real here. You guys, now, first of all, I have to address that I helped facilitate another stalking. Adam has developed a habit of stalking people who have been on the show, and so I texted Greig, and I said, "Do you mind if Adam stalks you?" You know, and you said okay, and so I got your permission for Adam to stalk, and then you guys actually met up. So Greig, what's it like to be stalked by Adam?
Oh, it's extremely exciting. I just, my first true stalker. It was love at first beer.
Yeah, I mean it's I tried to startle him, tried to come out of the shadows appropriately, but he saw me coming. He actually flagged me down.
Yeah,
we were keeping an eye out.
I sent both of you pictures of each other, so to help facilitate the stalking. So did you get to spend some time together?
We didn't hang out a lot of time, but it was good time. I was there with a friend who was hosting us, and he needed to get around and look at some things. And my wife Alex had a shopping agenda, so she needed to. And by that I mean shopping for brewery toys. She's very much a brewer's wife. But yeah, we had a really good conversation. I think I tried to drug and steal Adam's brewery employee several times because it must be nice to have a minion.
Talking about Austin.
Yeah, we had a few beers, a short discussion over a few beers, but when the beers are 2-ounce pours out of a little plastic cup from the nearby vendor's booth, it doesn't take long to share a few beers.
Well,
excellent.
Quick.
They go too quick.
And Greig, every time it seems like I've talked to you, I've talked to Peter Simons. It seems like it seems like when y'all come from the Southern Hemisphere, in just like a couple of weeks, you see more of the United States than most Americans see in their entire lifetime. So what was your itinerary?
Well, now you're asking me to remember things after wiping out brain cells for 3 weeks. So we flew into Los Angeles. We just had one night there and basically just stayed in El Segundo. The brewing scene there is going a bit nuts. Last time we were there, I think there was just El Segundo brewing, and now there's like 4 or 5 little breweries popping up. Sugar Monkey being an absolute standout. So if anyone's near there, go and have a beer with them. El Segundo itself is always, El Segundo brewing itself is always amazing. Then we took the train down to San Diego the next day with the first hangover of the trip, or was it jet lag, Adam? I'm not sure. But yeah, we got down there and we hit up a bunch down there. San Diego's it defies description. The brewing scene there. There's some doom and gloom creeping in. I think we were seeing some tense expressions behind some bars, and at least one brewery that we talked to had just closed before we got there, and they were operating as a bar more than anything else. But it was the positive was very positive. The beer quality is amazing. Where did we go from there? We went to the city of lost wages, and I failed to lose too much wages. Um, Again, another place that I've been to many times, and the brewing scene there has gone from strength to strength. Shout out to Abel Owl. They were pretty incredible. And then we hit up Indianapolis for the conference. And then after that, we meandered slowly home via Denver, Seattle, and the Bay Area.
Wow. And I facilitated another stalking in Denver. You met up with Matt Giovanisi.
We did, and what a lovely dude.
So, and I was darn tempted to take a plane and meet y'all in Denver, but I was like, I did meet you. It turns out 2 years ago, like this week in Chicago. So that was an amazing trip. So we do have that memory.
And don't worry, I'm sure this was supposed to be the last trip for a long time, but I'm sure I'll be back. I can't stay away from the beer scene.
Well, when you come back, I promise. I make a pledge. I'll meet up with you and Alex again because you're great folks and fun to hang around.
Thanks.
So Adam, you're closer to Indianapolis. Let's first get some impressions of what y'all think about Indianapolis as a beer city. You don't immediately, at least for me, when I hear Indianapolis, first of all, I'm worried that I'm going to mispronounce it. But then, second, I keep wanting to keep going. Like when I say Minneapolis, I want to say Minneapolis. So those two cities are together in my mind for that reason. But Adam, what do you think of Indianapolis as a beer town?
Yeah, it's I think that was the first time I'd ever been there, and it's only a 4-hour drive east for us. And I do have friends who live in near there or have in the past, beer friends. So I knew Sun King was the big one there, and that was about it that I knew of. But I did get to check out a couple of fun breweries. Right away, Austin and I went out to Gugman House, and we had to take getting there. It's about 2.5 miles away, so it was a little further than we wanted to walk. So the first Uber car we got in broke down,
Oh,
and then the second car we got in, we went with Lyft. That guy took us the wrong way down on one way downtown, which was exciting. So we were ready for our first beer, and Gugman House they had a lot of events that week. That place was all their beers were fantastic. Actually, and that's one thing I didn't write down is what all the breweries that we did check out, but none stood out as being disappointing. The breweries I went to all had excellent beers. Um, Apparently there were dozens and dozens of breweries within the city limits. I only got to check out a few. It didn't. They must have quite a sprawl because it wasn't like Greg, you're mentioning Vegas. They're all very close. They're together, physically close, and that's where CBC was last year. And then there's cities like Portland, where it's every street corner has 4 breweries on it. So somewhere in between there. But yeah, it was certainly quality that I tried.
what about you, Greg?
Yeah, I was there when was it? 2 years ago. And my friend Rob that you met, Adam, was generous enough to host us on a little walking tour. So we went, I think we did more breweries then than we did on this trip. This trip we were mainly hanging out on the conference floor and just socializing and that sort of stuff. So we went to Sun King a couple of times. Like you, we started at Gugman House as well. I'd left my I'd amazingly just arrived and managed to leave my passport and my wallet at Rob's house. So Rob's amazing daughter Ellie jumped in her car and drove it into us.
Oh,
Shout out to her.
I left my wallet back at your house. Oh.
I know, at least I didn't leave it in El Segundo this time. But yeah, so had a really good time there, and I agree, Adam. Like, there's no disappointing breweries; they're all great. I'm just trying to think of the one that we went to last. It was not. Oh, it'll come back to me. And so, yeah.
Is
I'm hopeless with
is
remembering
there
brewery.
is there a beer style? Is there a certain kind of beer that Indianapolis is known for? Is there a regional favorite or something that makes them, something that stands out? If you go to Indianapolis, you got to get one of these.
Not that I noticed. Food-wise, Rob jokes they're known for the blandest thing ever, which is like a pork. I can't remember what they call it. It's like a schnitzel thing on a far too small bun, and that's their food. But they don't seem to have any particular beer trends that I noticed. Like every brewery seems to do their own thing. Goodman House loves their lagers. Sun King loves their crazy beers of all styles and varieties, but they've also got, beautifully clean Mexican lager as well. There's just it's all over the spectrum and it's all executed really well. It's quite nice to be able to go to those sort of things.
Yeah, no, I was. You're asking a lot to remember a lot from that event. Goodman House had fantastic lagers, and Sun King, all great beers. But it seemed to be that it was similar with a lot of breweries in the Midwest, my own included. Um, we don't really have a regional style we're known for. People keep trying to bring forward this Midwest IPA.
Mm.
But really, I figure we're at an advantage in the center of the country, so we can kind of pick and choose. So we have a lot of good West Coast, a lot of good East Coast. We have lagers, yeah, you name it. And Indianapolis was the same way.
Now, we're talking about the Craft Brewers Conference, of course. I don't think I've mentioned that in the interview portion. But Greg, this isn't your first rodeo. This isn't your first Craft Brewers Conference.
No, I think it's my fourth, I want to say.
Wow.
It's the first one where I haven't had to judge as well, so that's nice. Usually you sort of get over judging and then run to the conference and then, kind of feel like you haven't got enough time to see everything or enough brain power left to take it all in. And this was a different experience for me too, because it's the first time I've had my wife Alex with me, and she's been there before, but she's not been to the conference. So she was kind of acting as the brewery while I was in some of the sessions, and she was going, shopping for goodies and so on, or at least pretending to. I think she was just there to drink the beer and collect stickers.
A worthy goal.
And a worthy goal indeed. And one of the other things we noticed this year was just the proliferation of beer on the floor. And I don't know whether that's because in the past I've been so focused on, talking to people and looking at the products and so on. I haven't really, you grab the odd free beer when you go past. But this time, maybe because I was there with Rob and Alex, we treated it as a big social party. And we were just grabbing a beer, going and talking to people, grabbing another beer. And it was, I don't think I've ever enjoyed so much beer at a conference in my life. So, it was good.
Adam, this isn't your first conference either.
Yeah, this is my fourth as well, fourth in a row, and I've never judged. I've always just gone as plain old participant. And I think you're right, Greg. It's probably your perspective shift because I didn't see more beer than a normal event. They did until last year. So every year they give away commemorative glassware. And the first 2 years there were these really cool fancy glasses that held a whole pint. And then the third year they gave us all just like this little 4 ounce. And I think my guess, and this is without having any inside knowledge to it, it's because usually on like the first day around noon you'd start to see brewers just passed out sleeping all over the conference hall. And so they've been sampling a little too much. So then last year we got these really annoyingly small glasses. This year they gave us all Kolsch. Stang has the tall, skinny that holds 8 ounces. Oh. So I think they're trying to get back into people going around and sampling. But yeah, there is enough beer everywhere you walk. Like you go to a random manufacturer and of something that depalletizes cans, and they're like, "Hey, would you like this beer?" And I was able to cross some beers off my list, like I do every year, that I've only heard about, but I haven't been to their brewery, and for some reason, someone's pouring that beer.
And Greg, how was the mood? What was the attendance like? What was the we hear all the the stories about craft beer plateauing or changing or even declining. Was any of that felt in the conference?
It was to me. Yeah. I mean, Adam, you went last year in Vegas. I didn't. I skipped that year. So I heard it was quite dark last year, and because I skipped 2 years, I noticed a definite decline in attendance. I noticed a definite decline in the size of the trade floor. The mood I would have described as quite pessimistic, but from talking to other people that were there, they were saying it was much more optimistic than last year. Going to some of the sessions as well, and listening to the presentations and the way they were targeted, it felt I don't want to use the words lipstick on a pig, but it felt very much like we'll be positive in the face of it no matter what. And I really respect that, but I do think there's a little bit more reality that probably needed to be addressed. And I think the mood of the conference did reflect that a little bit. There were a lot of conversations around why aren't they just admitting that we're all sorry, I don't know if I can say that on here. So you can bleep that out. Right?
Yeah, I'll bleep it, and people can use their imagination.
Yeah, I forget we're a family-friendly podcast here. That's what we swear a lot in New Zealand. Don't mind me.
Sweet as.
Sweet as, bro. Yeah.
Wall them up.
But wall them up. Yeah. But it was. There was optimism and plenty of it, lots to be found, and that was very inspiring to me. I'd been going through a bit of a doom and gloom phase myself back here, and it was just talking to so many people with so many different experiences and outlooks really made it worth going for me. I've come back refreshed and energized and inspired and with a lot of ideas, and a lot of that came directly from contact with other brewers and just industry people at that conference. So, yeah, I guess initial impression pessimistic, lasting impression optimistic.
So kind of sharing things that work for different breweries?
There was definitely that, but that was a very individual tale. I've got some notes on that we can talk about later. But it was just more a sense of people hunkering down and saying, right, we think we've got this, which was good to see.
Adam, do you concur?
Yeah, I mean, if you pay attention to the history of craft beer, at least in America, I don't know what it's the history at all in New Zealand. It's cyclical, like so many things, and we're at the bottom of a cycle. We also happen to be just economy in the world at large, pretty far on the bottom of a cycle. But it stands, if you're at CBC, your brewery's doing well enough that you can afford to send someone to CBC. So the people there are. They probably know how to roll with the punches. They are hunkering down. They are getting ready for a potentially even tougher road ahead. But yeah, again, it's more of how do we adapt? How do we? I almost don't want to use this word because it was used so much in the industry and during the pandemic. But how do you pivot? How do you keep your doors open? And so there was a lot of talk about changing drinking trends and NA and THC infused products and whatever it takes to keep the lights on long enough that we can all to the point in the future where we're all going to go back to enjoying mostly craft beer.
Greg, share some of your notes. Share some of your thoughts that you got from other people.
Yeah, I was just going to riff on what Adam was saying there with a note that I've got. I do wonder if, as you say, there was a lot of talk about pivoting, a lot of talk about beyond beer. That really didn't hit well for me. I feel like we've kind of done this to ourselves. I made the comparison with I can't remember who the brewer I was talking to, but she agreed with me that we've kind of become, do you know the South Park episode, The Death Camp of Tolerance?
No.
You're so tolerant that you tolerate tolerance and then everything breaks down and so on. Because we kind of embraced all the trends that have ended up killing us. We said, oh, the kids just want hazies. That's okay. We'll just make hazies. Oh, the kids just want fruited whatever. That's okay. We'll just make those. And we've pivoted ourselves out of our own authentic identities to the point where we're now going, well, now what do we do? We've been to all these places. And one thing I took away from, I think it was Bart Watson's point, is that Bart Watson's presentation at the summing up of it, was that he was saying that the number one thing that younger people are saying, and they're the ones who are not drinking and driving this whole thing, is that they don't like the flavor of craft beer. And I thought, what a nonsensical statement, because what does craft beer taste like?
Hmm.
It's like saying I don't like the flavor of vegetables.
Yeah.
There's so many different. So I think we've lost the message, and we've been trying so hard to grab every consumer and appeal to everyone that we've just forgotten to say, hey, this is who we are, and this is what we make, and these are the flavors, and these are the styles, and this is why, and get people to like those and get people to, embrace what we do through our authenticity and through our storytelling. I think if we keep trying to pivot and chase everything, then what we call craft beer might as well cease to exist right now. And maybe it has, and maybe that's okay. But that's just my take on it.
Yeah, no, I'm not going to argue with that. I do think there's a way to not, maybe pivot's the wrong word, maybe not pivot, but provide different options, try things out. I mean, I have a line that's dedicated to hard seltzer, and I'm thinking about getting rid of it because it's just not what our customers seem to want. But now, right now, for our customers, cider is really hot, so now I'm looking at what would it take to try a little bit of cider or fit into that space. Um, but yeah, I mean, tastes are changing. People are trying different things. I'm sitting here drinking an NA beer, and I wouldn't have done that a year or two ago. But I got to see what people are into these things. Yeah, I know. Greg's shaming me, but I want to. And I was thinking about this aside from this call and everything. But I've been trying a lot of NA beers, and I'm thinking. I'm really what I'm doing is researching the competition because yeah, it could be a whole episode in itself there. But um, I do think, like Greg said, brewers should not lose their identities and shouldn't throw, the baby out with the bathwater when they're trying these new things. Remember that we are craft breweries. Remember that these are passion project. No one's getting wealthy in this. So why should we make something we don't want to make? Personally, I want to brew everything. I want to try all the things and see what I like most. But on that note, I keep returning to good traditional craft beer.
So was there formal educational material? Were there seminars? Were there presentations that was targeted toward this? Did they address the situation in the formal content? Was there useful stuff out there, Greg?
Yeah, definitely. There was, in fact, I think the first one I went to was why, I can't remember, I'm paraphrasing, but it was something like why craft beer is exactly where you want it to be, or something like that. And basically they were saying, hey, there's never been a better time to sell different products and appeal to more different people. And it was almost like, so here's how you spin it. And there was some really good takeaways from that. Things like, use flavor descriptors instead of styles when you're talking about beer. So instead of saying this is a porter, say this is a smooth chocolatey beverage with a slight bitterness or whatever. And that was extremely useful.
Mm.
So I guess, I'm not saying we shouldn't embrace, we shouldn't ignore all beyond beer things, or we shouldn't only do what we do. But I'm just saying, we do need to stick to our core. And I think that message did come across in some of the educational seminars as well, at least the 2 or 3 I went to.
So you're at a point where you're re-educating the consumer once again.
Exactly right. I feel like that we're back to, so in New Zealand, this happened in the early 2000s. I don't know when it was in the US. But we had to go out and tell consumers that beer wasn't just this one product that their dad drank. And, we had to communicate to them that these are all the flavors beer is capable of. Find what you like and keep experimenting, because that's what it's all about. And I do think we're there again.
Adam, what useful content did you find?
Yeah, I don't think I went to as many seminars as Greg. There are a ton of great seminars, and most of them all seem to be at the same time, so you have to pick and choose. But also the Brewers Association records all of the audio on them, and we'll send them out probably in a couple months, along with the slide decks that they had. And I've had enough seminars I went to where it wasn't really worth my time, that I prefer to use my time on the show floor. But I did go to a few. One, not even really a seminar, but the keynote speech was from the owners of Trillium Brewing and their husband and wife team. So that was I thought that was a great talk, and he shared they both shared their personal history and that they have small kids, and he had a health scare, and
Mm.
they're still able to create this huge brewing company. And so that was cool. That was relatable. I think that was needed, and that added to some of the I think optimism of the event. But otherwise, for seminars, I thought it was cool. I went to one about keeping flagships alive, and that was with Brian Grossman, so the son of Ken Grossman from Sierra Nevada.
Hmm.
And that was just cool to hear him talk about Sierra Nevada Pale Ale. There was one seminar on different serving styles, and I mean, there's these ladies were experts in all the types of faucets, and Austin keeps bugging me to get him a Luker side pole,
Uh,
and then in the middle of the presentation, they pulled out there's this Japanese style faucet that has two barrels on it, and I was like, oh no, he's gonna. I'm sure that thing isn't cheap. As soon as he catches word of that, he's gonna be bugging me to buy that. Um, and then there was one on flavors, and I there always seems to be every year one on experimenting with new flavors, and I always try to go to it with different speakers every time, and that was really useful. They broke it down by region in North America, what people are into, what flavors, and what they're seeing growing. And then lastly, there was one on new hop varieties. Always love to go to those, and then people pass around the pellets or the cones to rub, and they talk about these new exciting hops.
anything stand out?
Um, no, that I didn't write down. But I also have with my minion in tow, I gave Austin he got 1 ounce samples of basically all these hops that anyone's talking about.
Ooh.
The New Zealand hops are always fun. I know Greg and I talked about that for a bit on the conference floor, but um, yeah, those are the sexy ones right now.
You're the center of the hop universe down there, Greg.
Yeah, so it seems. I tell you what, I had the best New Zealand Pilsner I've ever had in San Diego, so I don't know what that, I don't know what that tells me. You guys are getting our best stuff, it seems. But yeah,
You're getting the pressed floor sweepings.
that's exactly right. This is what happens when you're too small to contract, right?
You just drive over and just pick up the well, of course in Oregon when we went to a hop harvest up there, if you're a home brewer, it's great because you can just pick up bines full of hops on the side of the road, but you guys process the hops on the farm, so there's not this central place where they pick the hops. So there I am talking about myself and my own experience again, but that's the theme of the show. So, so let's talk about toys. Let's talk about the show floor and the equipment manufacturers and things like that. What compare and contrast what this time between this time and a couple of years ago when you were there, Greg.
Yeah, I can't say I noticed there was a particular focus shift. I think there were a lot more hop products, a lot more focus on crazy things like thiol enhancing yeasts, stuff like that. I noticed it might have been just me, but I don't think I saw as many canning lines and packaging sort of offerings. Alex was running around trying to find equipment that'll help save my back, so she was looking at these ridiculously expensive vacuum keg lifters and things like that. But there's no way I'm shipping that down here. So, so we may settle on a nice keg lifting, automatic keg lifting cart or something. But yeah, I don't think I noticed too much of a shift, just a decrease in the number of exhibitors, really. What did you see, Adam? Similar?
Yeah, I every year I like to go visit the suppliers I normally use in person, and there are a couple that weren't there that have been in the past. Um, but yeah, there wasn't a theme. I always tried to the last couple of years. It always seems to be like 3 years ago it was all thiols, and 2 years ago it was all about these alternative fruit products. I didn't really get one single thing. I will say some of the highlights for me though was I don't know, Greg, if you made it over to the Skunk Works Lounge.
I did. I was just going to tell you,
Yeah.
we took it twice and did that.
So, yeah, Abstracts, the company that makes the terpenes that we use, that I did a whole episode on a while back. Um, They had this competition, and they do it every year. This year we got invited. We were in round one. We didn't make it to round two. The round two participants were there, and they gave you a flight of 9 different beer samples on this giant cardboard thing, and you got to vote on your favorite beer that used terpenes, and that was really fun. There's some good stuff in there, and we love those guys. We talked to them, bogarted their time for quite a while.
so to speak.
Yeah, as you'd think. Um, we also did. We spent a good long time talking to Marty Scott from Revolution Brewing. I don't know if Greg, if you've had any of their beers, or James, if you can get them down in Arkansas, but they fantastic barrel aged beers, some of the
Mm.
best out there. And this guy knows more about barrels and oak aging than I thought was possible. I mean, just in the 15 minutes or so that I was talking with him, it just my just mind blown. And so I got some samples of some oak stuff that he's working on. I'm really excited to try out. Similarly, we always like to go say hey to Omega Yeast. And they're always trying something fun that Greg can't legally use in New Zealand. Uh, a genetically modified yeast. They've got a new one that sours. It's a Kveik yeast that produces lactic acid as it ferments. So for me, that's huge. That's I can turn around sour beers that much faster.
Wow.
And they've also removed the diastaticus from Saison and Belgian yeast. So now you don't have to be as afraid of Belgian yeast in your brewery.
Was there? I mean, we don't get political in the show. Try not to. But this is talking about the industry. How prevalent was discussion about possible tariffs or the kind of fluctuating business climate that we're experiencing right now?
Yeah, that was all over the place. That's all. It was in every conversation. And then it was one added up there with young people don't drink alcohol anymore as like potential doom and gloom on the horizon. Um, the numbers I've seen so far and at my scale, it's not a huge deal, but larger breweries, it's a larger problem.
So I assume you're outside of of the situation down there, Greg.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, we never know what's going to happen with the unpredictability of the current leadership. But for us, it's yeah, we don't export a lot of stuff other than hops to the US, so tariffs aren't really an issue for us. But yeah, as Adam said, it was everywhere. The conversations were all around it. There were whole educational sessions dedicated to how you might want to deal with it if you're in that situation. I didn't go to any of them because I'm not.
Mm.
But yeah, it was a little interesting. Oh, and just as an aside to Adam, yeah, James and I know Revolution. Last time I saw him, we had dinner there. So
Oh yeah,
Oh, excellent.
talk about foggy memories.
yeah, well,
I think
it
that
was
was
the end of a long
that
day.
was the last stop of that day. I think, wasn't it?
Yeah, and we went. You remember we went to the wrong one first and
That's
had
right.
to Uber the second one down the street.
And I think that we arrived in the one SUV that was the most pungent example of urinal cake smell. The,
Yes,
the air freshener in that automobile, you could taste it, and I was like,
it
see,
wasn't the
You remember the
really dry.
smell.
yeah,
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, remember this? This is urinal cake.
You
But
remember the smell, but not the delicious barrel-aged beers at the
I,
brewery.
you know,
I see.
I do.
I was having trouble breathing. Uh,
I'd been there before, so I remember the barrel aged beers, but I think we were just drinking nice gentle IPAs or
yeah, I
something.
think we were winding down at that point. At least Steve and I were.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks for the reminder. So, almost called you Alex. Greg, I'm sipping on just a tiny beer myself, not too much.
It's a tiny beer.
Just a tiny beer. So, Greg, you were usually judging for the World Beer Cup in the past. Did you pay attention to the competition this year, or anything come out that's notable from where you stand?
I still haven't really had a chance to sit down and look at the results. I had a quick scan because there was a there was a brewery in San Diego I went to called Virgin, and they were the ones that I mentioned that did the perfect New Zealand Pilsner. And I remember saying to the guy, to our server, I said, like, look, I hope you guys have entered this beer because as speaking as someone who's judged plenty, this is the sort of beer that's going to medal. It's just perfect. And so I was scanning the results to see if I was right, because last time I was there and did that, I was exactly right. The brewery got a silver medal.
Wow.
This time I failed. I did not call it, so I'm only 1 from 2. But I'll take a 500 average any day. But yeah, so that was as much as I looked. I noticed a few of the breweries that we'd been to and a few that we were planning on going to had done quite well. I didn't notice. I haven't had time to analyze the results or look at any kind of statistical stuff around it. The Brewers Association's usually pretty good on breaking that stuff out, so I'll probably just catch up on whatever they have to say later on.
Adam?
I entered 3 beers and I didn't win any shiny medal, so I don't have a chip on my shoulder. No, I heard
It's hard.
it is, and I heard this year the judges were a lot more diversified, a lot more different backgrounds and ethnicities, and then also the one thing I've heard the hot take on who won was it was a lot more diversified as well. There were breweries from many countries that earned medals, and I went to look for went through the winners to see if who I knew and who I didn't know, and there was a lot of breweries that I'd never heard of here in the U.S. and abroad that won gold. So,
Wow.
Yeah, it seemed like a pretty good turnout this year.
Wow.
I think that trend kind of started maybe 3 or 4 years, maybe about 4 or 5 years ago, actually, when you started not recognizing the breweries that were winning, which was a really good sign of, to me, of industry health. Back before that, the running joke used to be, what were their names? Pizza Port and Russian River and all that. And they'd always just be the champion brewer, which is fine. They should have been. The quality was excellent. But it's not like we knew when we were judging that those were their beers. They just happened to be excellent. But with so many more in the competition, and there's always some luck involved, the judges on the day, the mood around the table, who drank too much last night. Not that isn't a factor, but yeah. Who argued the case of the beer the best. Sometimes that just rolls the dice a little bit, and you do get that random factor. And I think I said to you, Adam, I was really happy that I wasn't invited to judge this year, because to me, I am an old white guy. And when I first started judging back in 2012, everybody looked like me. And last time I judged 2 years ago, I was, starting to be the rarity in the room. And if that's only continued, then that's a great thing. I don't miss judging. It's a great honor to be asked, but it's also much nicer to not be doing it and just be able to enjoy the conference and the trip. So,
and it seems like if the industry is trying to reach out to new people and kind of expand the market, maybe that's a good strategy.
100%. I couldn't agree more.
I guess because Greg, I know that you've got work to do. I don't know about Adam, but I think you're just starting your day and you're catching up from a long time away. And Adam, I know you're busy as well, but I always kid you for some reason. So let's talk about final thoughts. To me, whenever we would go to the Homebrew Conference, I've never been to the Craft Brewers Conference, but whenever we would go to the Homebrewers Conference, it's just connecting with or at least people who also loved some of the things that I love, and experiencing new things that I'd never thought about, and coming away with being inspired and seeing new toys and new products and all that, especially in a hobby that's so niche as what ours is, or mine is. Getting together with people, with sort of common interests is re-energizing and kind of refocusing, I guess. Do you guys, Adam, do you feel that same way going to the Craft Brewers Conference?
I've been to a couple of homebrew cons, and I've also been to a handful of CBCs now. The big difference for CBC is that it's everyone's livelihood. People are there working. It's not just a passion project, but it is. You can sniff those people out of the crowd, sometimes literally, who really do enjoy what they're doing. I mean, it's so cool to talk to the person who owns the hop farm of your favorite hop. It's it's cool to just randomly bump into this brewer who likes trying out new grains. So I sent you the picture, James, of the beer that was brewed 100% Fonio, which isn't new to us grain. That beer looked like sparkling water, but it tasted like beer. It was just bizarre. And I happened to run into the brewer on the show floor about that. Um, yeah, it's those people are out there. You can usually sniff out the people are just who aren't there because they're passionate about it. I think the passionate people find each other, and that is re-energizing for sure.
Greg.
Mm. Yeah, the just as a side, that Fonio beer, Alex, I walked out of a seminar and Alex came running up to me with a glass of this stuff that would look like water and said, "You've got to try this." So yeah, I'm familiar with that one.
You need to hydrate, Greg. You have to try.
That's right. I need to. She didn't tell me it was beer at first. She just said, "Taste this." But no, I kind of agree with what Adam was saying. I think that was a very good point about it's our livelihood. It's not just a hobby, and I think there's a lot more. I hate saying it, but there's a lot more cynical conversation that you overhear, and a lot more sort of doom and gloom that you overhear. But it would be the same at any industry conference. It's just people, kind of complaining about their day jobs. There is still that underlying bit of passion. There are still those people who are really, really happy and excited to be doing what they're doing. And I do think all of us are at some level still do have that level of excitement. It's just that when we get together with colleagues, we tend to go to the lowest and we start grumbling. It's when we get together with, like Adam said, people who are innovating and people who are doing something different to us or providing services to the industry, and they're really excited about it. And that sparks conversations and gets people, just talking and excited and bubbling. And as I said at the start, I've certainly come away inspired and optimistic rather than depressed and miserable. So doing something right.
Speaking of passion, Greg, did you fight the giant nut roll?
I did not see the giant nut roll. In fact,
you didn't? There was a guy dressed up at BSG like a giant nut roll, a candy bar, and I absolutely arm wrestled with him and won. And I'm surprised I haven't seen that video yet. It was
I saw something about that with you with a giant inflatable nut roll.
It was a person. There was someone came up to me with the camera and said, "Hey, do you want to fight this nut roll?" And I said, "Hell yes, I want to fight the nut roll." And so they took me over to a table and I went to arm wrestle, and I was big dogging him because I was like, for the video. And the guy in the costume was like, "This is all for fun, right?" I was like, "Yeah, man, I'm not actually. I don't want to fight you."
Why did you break his arm, Adam? Why did you break his arm?
So people were crowding around taking video, and then the next day I was over at BSG, and this dude came up to me and he goes, "Hey, you're the guy who fought the nut roll." I've been accused of worse things in my life, so yeah.
I was not familiar with the mythology around the nut roll over there. So I don't know if you know, James. So when brewers over there, you order pallets of malt, right? And apparently the suppliers or the distributors or whatever, they put these free nut rolls in.
Oh.
And it's just, I had no idea. That's not a thing here. All I get with my malt is an invoice.
Yeah, it's fun. There's and it's just for RBSG that does it. Other suppliers do other treats nowadays, I think, but you always get a few. These are pallets that are sometimes 5-6 feet tall. And in the center of them are these a random selection of nut rolls, and then during Christmas time they'll do different flavors. And I've heard rumors of people getting like a giant, like 5-pound nut roll. So every time you get a new pallet, you just kind of dive in Scrooge McDuck style and hope you find the nut rolls at the bottom. And as a result of that, this company that makes them has now leaned into it's calling it the Brewer's Lunch.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, if anyone from Gladfield Malt is listening to this, just please take notes, and we'd like some nut rolls too. That'd be cool. Thanks.
I've now heard the term nut roll more than I ever have in my whole life. Right there in this.
And you said this was a family-friendly podcast.
Yeah, the nut roll cost extra. On that note. Well, all right, guys, this was great. A lot of great information, and I'm I hope to share a beer with you guys in person again before too long, and I'm so happy that you two met.
Yeah, and then shout out to Matt too, who was
that's
also
right. Yeah, we can't leave him out as well. It's 1 degree of separation from Adam.
That's true.
I'm forming a team. I'm going to just go around and start showing up at breweries and say I've got a special mission for everyone.
Well, guys, I appreciate it again. Thanks a lot. And Adam, have a good evening or afternoon. And Greg, have a good next Thursday or whatever it is down there.
Totally. Thanks.
Thanks again to Greg and Adam. I'll try to post some pics on Instagram at Basic Brewing of some of the 1 degree of Adam meetups. If you want to meet up with Adam yourself, head down or up or over to Twin Span in Bettendorf, Iowa. And if you're lucky enough to be in New Zealand, you can find Greg and Alex at Brewaucracy in Hamilton. Both of them are also great to follow on the Insta. If you have brewing suggestions or questions, you just want to say howdy, write to James at basicbrewing.com or just fill out the contact form on basicbrewing.com. Please don't forget to tell us where you're from. Check out our mobile-friendly shop at basicbrewingshop.com. Thanks to everybody supporting us through our Patreon page. Special goodies coming your way. Check that out at patreon.com/basicbrewing. It's all until next time. Until then, thanks for listening, everybody. I'm James Spencer. Production help for Basic Brewing Radio and our website is provided by Kelly Dodson. Basic Brewing Radio is a production of Active Voicing. We'll talk to you next time, everybody. In the meantime, stay well and stay tuned. So long.